people who don't have choices are people who are struggling financially. You don't get to choose where you want to live. You don't get to choose what you want to eat for dinner for real. You don't get to decide where your kids go to school or decide if you're going to miss your kid's game. You have no choices when you're broke. Said it once, I'll say it 100 times. You have no choices when you're broke. And guys, if you work hard at this and you learn the skills that can be learned, but I think the thing I have to highlight before we go is you have to earn that right. You have to earn the right to have freedom in this business because the skills are not just learned, they're earned. All right, everybody, welcome to today's call. Today, we're going to be talking about really the 2023 plan to win. And I think the purpose of this training, again, it's just to set you up for this new year. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to make 2023 for me personally, the year of growth and the year of profitability for my business. So I am really excited to talk to you guys about how to create a game plan and how to set goals for the coming year. And I think the first thing I want to say is I want to be clear that the new year has already started for a lot of us. And I think too many of us, we look at Christmas and New Year's as Christmas break. And the thing that I hate to break to a lot of y'all is that we're not children anymore and adults don't get Christmas break. Christmas is 1, maybe 2 days max. And New Year's is, barely a holiday. It's a fun celebration. But most of us on this call, me personally, I need the money. And I need to be moving forward. And a lot of you guys need to be moving forward quickly in this career. So why would I take 2 weeks off like I'm in elementary school? I'm an adult. And I know that in my career, every single time that I've looked back, that I've taken a lot of time off, it was like having to get the ball rolling all over again, rather than just running with that momentum into the new year to get out the gate strong. So one of the things that I don't do often enough, and I never regret it when I do it, is reflecting on the past year, reflecting on what has happened and figuring out what my goals, my intentions are moving forward. So, this call, it's not meant to be some fluffy New Year's resolution crap because most of us, we don't stick to that stuff anyways. And, why should it take a New Year's resolution or a new year to make us finally, change our life and change our circumstances? And I'm preaching to myself here more than I'm preaching to anybody. Why should we wait for January 1st to go to the gym when today or tomorrow is as good of a day as any other day? Why should we wait to take our business seriously until January 1st? Or in some people's cases, they're going to wait an extra week till, January 7th after New Year's because their kids are still off school. So, why should they work either? For me personally, the calendar I look at, it's just a way of tracking time. And I've got goals that I want to accomplish inside of this, time block in the next 12 months, but it shouldn't take a new year for me to become a new me. Any of us, it's one decision away that can literally happen, snap of the fingers. And, I think for me, I'm realizing the deal is that if you decide to go all in on your business and transforming your situation, there's going to be people in your life that are going to be naysayers. There's going to be people in your life that are going to try to convince you that you should be doing something else. There's going to be people who convince you that you should go and get a real job because commission's not reliable. And you're going to have even people in this business try to take you off course. And I think a major key going into 2023 is to not care what any of those people think. And in life, you guys have to ask yourself, who do you listen to? For me, I've always listened to people who have what you want. I would listen to my parents about how to be good parents, but not on how to build a business. I might listen to a personal trainer about how to get in shape, not the person who's been trying to get in shape unsuccessfully for years. And I would probably listen to a Hall of Fame producer or a manager on how to sell and build a business, not somebody who's not on the leaderboards and isn't even, all in on their own business. So in 2023, we have to get serious about who we listen to. We have to get serious about where our influence comes in. And, I recently came across one of my favorite analogies and stories from a guy named Darren Hardy. He's the author of The Compound Effect, which is a great book. If you are into New Year's resolutions, The Compound Effect is a fantastic book to read before January 1st. Quick read. It'll get you set on the right track. And he's also the editor of Success Magazine. And I came across this story. It was something I posted on my Facebook, a couple of years ago. In the story, it talks about a crab of all things, the animal, in the sea. And it talks about this crab that's really, really hard to catch, that usually can get out of just about any trap. And he talks about how the crazy thing about these crabs is that they're caught by the thousands every single day, thanks to this one human trait that every single one of them possesses. And the way that the story kind of goes is that, the fishermen, they lower the trap into the water. The trap, is a wire cage with a hole in the top. They've got bait in the cage. And, one crab will come along, they'll eat the bait. And then the second crab will come along and join him, and followed by, third, fourth, fifth. And then eventually the cage is full. And guess what? The bait is gone. And at this point, you think, okay, well, all the crabs can easily just climb out the sides of the cage and through the hole, but they don't. Every single one of them stay in the cage. And all the other crabs actually continue to come along and keep joining them, even though the bait is gone. Now, at this point, there's going to be one of these crabs that realizes that there's no further reason for them to stay in the trap, and they decide to leave. And the other crabs will basically gang up on it and stop it. And the other crabs will repeatedly pull it off the sides of the cage over and over again. The crab will persist, and the others will tear off its claws. And if he keeps climbing, they'll kill him. The crabs, by force of majority, they stay together in the cage. The cage is lifted out of the water and dinner is served. And I think the main lesson that I learned from rereading that Facebook post is that, anybody who has a dream, one that's uncommon, one that's bigger than those around them, one that makes other people feel uncomfortable, one that might get them out of what they perceive to be that trap, you have to beware of the other people who are in that trap with you. Darren Hardy says, we as humans, we don't use physical force, but we have other ways of bringing each other down, putting doubt, mocking people, sarcasm, taunting, teasing, talking negative, people planting seeds of doubt in your business, and other, tactics that, the crabs around you will use to pull off your claws and kill your dreams. And you have to beware of the people around you who are content with staying in the trap. You make them look bad. You're a giant mirror to them. Your actions are reflecting back to them like a mirror, and they know they should be doing what you're doing, but they're afraid. And it's easier for them to either make fun of you or make, you doubt what you're doing, trying to convince you why what you're doing is not right, in hopes that you'll come back to the trap so they don't feel bad about themselves. And you got to love them anyway, but you cannot let them drag you back into that mediocre pack. And I love that. I love reading that story every year, because it reminds me that when we do uncommon things, we make other people uncomfortable. Now, this could be your friends and your family, or it could even be people that you work with in this business. And maybe you find yourself working harder and are more committed to your success than even your manager who brought you in. And my advice to you would be to surround yourself with those people who are obsessed with this business, people who don't have any side hustles. They're committed to growing. They're committed to getting better at this every single day. Surround yourself with people and only take advice from people who are on the leaderboards in 2023. Okay. So now let's kind of jump into some more practical applications, reflecting on 2022. We have to, before we can move forward into 2023, take some time to reflect on 2022. Now, this is not something anybody's required to do. I'm just going to ask some questions that'll hopefully provoke some thoughts. So if you're taking notes, write down some of these questions. Maybe you answer some of them later. Maybe you don't. Okay. But for me, it's something I committed to do and something I wanted to share with you guys, some questions that I'm asking myself. The first question being, do I feel like I became a better version of myself in 2022 than I did the year before? Or do I feel like I became a worse version of myself? Did I surround myself with people who challenged me, with people who preached positivity? Or did I surround myself with people who held me back and people who planted seeds of doubt? Those two questions right there. Do I feel like I became a better version of myself this year? Honestly, sometimes, but other times, and if I reflect back, I look and I know how much better I could be, and the things that I could remove from my life. Did I surround myself with people who challenge me and preach positivity? Yeah, a lot of the time I did, but I did allow a couple of people to stay in my circle that have planted seeds of doubt, who, it's not their fault they held me back, but me listening to them is a reason that I've been held back. And, ask yourself the question, who inspired growth in you this year? Who are those people that you've studied and they've actually helped you to grow and been a positive influence on your life in this business? They talk about how success leaves clues. If there's people who have inspired you to grow in the last year, well, continue to study those people, continue to pour into those things. For me, when I first got started, those couple of people were, Grady Polson, Matt Smith, and Paul McLean. I got obsessed with them because they inspired growth in me. And I said, I want to consume every little bit of information that I can possibly get on them. And after them, It was, Zach Tardowski and, Andrew Taylor and a handful of others. And it's kind of transformed over time. But, I learn everything I can learn from somebody, and then I move on and I find somebody else who can inspire growth in me. So who inspired growth in you? Who are those people? And can you continue to study them? And the ones who, did the opposite of inspiring growth, can you stop listening to them? What's an area? Here's another question. What's an area that you need to improve most in your business? Just be honest with yourself. Is it your discipline to dial? Is it your fearlessness in buying leads? Is it you need to improve your phone script? You need to improve your presentation? You're just not taking recruiting serious enough. Where do you want to improve most? And what were your main priorities in the last year? I think that's important to note, because if you have the same priorities in 2023 as you had in 2022, would you grow and would you be happy with yourself at the end of 2023? And if you honestly answer that question, what does it look like? So for me, I ask myself, would I be happy if I had the same exact priorities in 2023 as I had in 2022? Another thing that I'm asking myself is, how can I improve my efficiency? Okay, how can I be more efficient? Did you hand dial all of 2022? Maybe try phone burner. And that's going to say you go from being able to dial 200 times in a day to dialing 1,000 times in a day. How can I improve my efficiency? There are some that went from in-home to telesales, and some who went from telesales back to in-home. Well, what does it look like for you to go out and improve your efficiency? Some people would say, hey, well, I can only meet with 6, 7 people in a day, with drive time if I do in-home, but I can meet with 10, 12, 14 people hour on the hour, every half hour on the hour if I do telesales. Some people, they dial the phone all day long and they don't really feel like they're getting anything done because they get distracted by, a million other things. Are you scrolling on Facebook? Well, you got your power dialer going. Like, what is it that is holding you back, and what can help make you more efficient? Just reflect on some of these things. And then lastly, how can you simplify your plan? How can you simplify your plan? Because the more complicated it is, the more steps, the more convoluted, the harder it's going to be for you to stick with. Can you simplify your plan? Can you just say, I'm going to do 30 appointments a week. I'm going to sit on 10. I'm going to sell 10. Can you simplify your plan? I'm going to recruit 2 agents a week, rather than I'm going to create this massive campaign that has all these moving parts. Can you just simplify your plan and focus on it? And then what can you delegate? This was a big one for me in 2022. Looking back, what could I delegate to somebody else that I was holding on to? There's a lot of you guys on here who you sell a lot of insurance, you have no staff member. You think, well, I don't have a business that's big enough to have a staff member. You don't even have a virtual assistant. So what could you delegate to a staff member or a virtual assistant that could help you get your time back to focus on helping more families this year? How many of y'all spent over an hour on hold with an insurance carrier today, this week, this month? Many of you, I can imagine. Guys, I haven't been on the phone with an insurance carrier in a year and a half. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me, was having a staff member or a virtual assistant take care of my pending business, to call my clients to let them know they've been approved. And guess what? Yes, it costs me money on a weekly basis. I started off having my original staff member here in the United States do that for me. And then as time went on and as the agency, got bigger, I thought that there's other tasks that were more important for that person to do. And I hired a virtual assistant for $300 a week to do all of my pending business, to track all of the debt in my business, to track every single time that I get an email that says, hey, their payment didn't go through, and to call those clients and to call the carriers and to reset up meetings and put them back on my schedule. Now imagine if I didn't have that, how much less efficient I would be. I should finish this year somewhere around like 525 families on my own pen. If I had to call every single one of those families every single time and check on all the pending business, I'd probably be somewhere around 300 families. Honest truth. If I had to sit on hold for an hour with the carrier one more time. So what is it that you can delegate? What are those little things? I remember when I was out in the field and I was I was selling, I was also trying to recruit, and I'm on the phone with the recruit telling them, hey, I'll get you into class. And then I'm driving down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, copy and pasting the link to get into class, rather than letting my staff do it for me. Like, what can you delegate? And it's like, if you by you delegating that, it costs you a few $100 a week, a few $1,000s a month to have somebody helping you. But by getting that time back, you were able to help another 5 or 10 families a month. Like, that's a no-brainer. So that's a very easy question to ask yourself. Like, what can you delegate to a staff member or a virtual assistant so you can get your time back so you can focus on helping more families this year? And then, are you happy with your results in 2022? Because if you're happy with your results, you could do exactly what you did last year, get the exact same results. But if you're not happy, I'm personally not happy with my results. There's so much further I believe this agency could go, so many more agents that we could help. If you're not willing to give up something this year, what's going to change? That's kind of the question that I started to ask myself. If I'm not willing to do something different, what are you guys willing to give up this year and replace with business activity? Like, do you watch the news every night? I know a lot of us, we don't do that, but some of us do. Do you watch the news every night? Are you scrolling on Facebook? Well, you're dialing. Do you love to golf? Like, what's that thing that you love that is the thing you try to escape with? Is it sleeping in? Like, are you willing to actually just smack the alarm clock and get up a little bit earlier? Like, what's that thing for you? Everybody's different. What are we willing to give up? Not forever, just for a little bit, to pour in to this business? That's the question that I would ask you guys. Okay, so let's keep it going here. So once you reflect, I think it's also important to smack the reset button. So I think it's good to know what happened in your business and to think deeply about what happened in the last year. But now that I've taken some time to reflect, I've taken, an afternoon or an evening to reflect, it's time to forget the past and focus on the future. I think it's also important to know that whatever you did or didn't do last year, after you reflect, it doesn't matter anymore. Your accomplishments, your recognition, or your lack thereof is completely irrelevant moving forward in 2023. It's time to set new goals. It's time to create new plans. I'm a huge fan of goals that are called SMART goals. Okay, SMART goals. It's an acronym. Acronyms are cheesy, but guess what? Cheesy stuff works. Cheesy stuff makes you money. But SMART goals, it's an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Okay, I'll say it one more time. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So specific, like, what is your exact goal? The more specific, the better. A general goal like, well, Jamie, I want to make more money this year. That's not a real goal, because if you made no money last year, you can make $100 this year and you made more money. Like, what is a specific goal? And then it has to be measurable. Can you measure your progress on a daily or a weekly basis? You can measure your results, on the scoreboard, or you can measure your results from tracking activity. Those are really the two ways that I look at measuring business results. Also, you could probably measure the way that you feel. Like, do I feel better doing the work this year than last year? That's super subjective. What is objective is numbers. Did I do more activity this week than last week? Did I hit my activity goal or not? Did I hit my results goal? Did I issue the number of policies that I wanted to issue? I can measure it. How many families did I help today, and did those policies issue? And then attainable. Is it realistic? This one's hard, I think, because anything's possible here. When you see people going out and helping 100 families in a month on their own pen, you're like, well, what is possible? Like, I've met people who, they told me their goal is to help 200 families on their own pen in a month. Just it's like the new 4-minute mile. They're like, who can go and help the most families personally in a month? But it's like, is that attainable or realistic for you? And not, is it possible, but is it possible for you based on the amount of work that you're willing to put in? And just be honest with yourself. Because I'm not willing to put in the work that it takes to go help 100 families in a month on my own pen. I'm willing to put in the work it takes to help 50 families in a month. I'm not willing to put in the work it takes to do 100, because I want to go build an agency and I know I won't have time for anything else. But it's like, are you willing to put in the work that it takes to get to the goal? Because if not, you have to shrink the goal. If you go and you hear what a Hall of Fame producer does, helping 10 families a week, and you go, well, in order for me to help 10 families a week, I got to sit with 30, or I got to set appointments for 30, sit with 20, and maybe I help half. And if I help 30 families a week, that's 120 families a month. I multiply that out by a year, man, that's like 1,500 appointments. Am I willing to do that? Because that's what it takes to go ahead and hit Hall of Fame. If you're sitting with 20 and helping 10. So is it attainable? Is it relevant? Also, I think this is important too. Like, will the result of achieving that goal like actually help you mentally, physically, spiritually, financially? Like, is me hitting Hall of Fame just because I want the recognition, or is it because like I want to use the income to drive a business, to create an agency? It's like, what is it for you? Because it's like, you need to know, like, what's that going to do? Like, is hitting Hall of Fame so that you can get into a new house, because you're in an apartment right now? Like, what is that thing for you that makes that goal relevant to your situation? Because anybody on here can say, I want to go have an agency that does $1 million a month. I want to go out there and be a Hall of Fame producer and help 40 families a month. But like, what makes that relevant to your situation that's going to actually make you do the work? For me, I looked at it as, I need to hit Hall of Fame because, number one, I need to change my situation financially and become the provider for my family. But I also want to make sure there's enough left over that I can run a real business. For you, if you say, you know what, I don't have any desire to run a real business, you do not have to help 40 families a month. You can learn how to create your ROI and your return on investment on your leads and your business by helping 20, 25 families a month, and you can have an amazing life. You really can. But if you say, I want to build a business, I want to build an agency, I want staff, I want to extend this opportunity to others, well, that's what makes Hall of Fame relevant for me. Writing those numbers makes that relevant for me because I know what I want to do with the money. So it's not just, I want to make more money and here's this ambiguous goal that I'm just throwing out there because I think that it's the right thing to say. I think a lot of us, we say, I want to hit Hall of Fame because you think that's what your manager wants to hear. Like, how is that goal relevant for you? Maybe you just want to help another 200 families a year and you'll be set. Maybe you just want to do this part-time. Like for me, when I first started, my goal was to help 2 families every weekend to replace my wife's income. That was relevant for me, and I wanted to keep my full-time job. And then I decided I want to build a business. In order to create what I wanted to create, I had to create a goal that was relevant for me. Then the last one is time-based. Like, do you have a yearly, monthly, weekly goal? Can you break it down like that? I want to help 400 families. That's 33 a month. That's 10 a week, whatever that looks like for you. And then if you're struggling to look out that far, because I know I struggled to look out that far at certain times in my business, what's the next logical step? What is the next logical step? There's this saying, it goes, go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll see a little bit further. Okay, go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll see a little bit further. So like, what is the next logical step for you? Is the next logical step for you to obsessively do whatever it takes to have your first 10 family week? Like, what is that logical step for you? Is it to have your first 10 family day? Is it, how can I struggle with consistency. I've helped 10 families, about a dozen times, but it's never been back-to-back weeks. Like, what is that for you? What's that next logical step? The consistency goal was a big one for me in my first year in the business. It was, okay, I can help 10 families, but can I do it every week? And when that became normal, then things started to change. So for you, what is that next logical step? And get obsessively focused in it. And guess what? I don't have to tell you what your next goal is, because when you get there, you'll see further. So go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you see further. I think another thing you start to figure out, this is mostly talking to people who've been here for a while. If you are new, this might go over your head a little bit, but if you do this long enough, you start to figure out that a ratio appears in your numbers of your closing percentages. When you do this long enough and often enough, you understand that if I buy this many leads, I make this many dials, and I talk to this many clients, I'll protect about this many families. And you start to figure out your numbers. And when you've been here long enough, it's very easy for you to reverse engineer your goals. So if you've been here long enough, I encourage you to reverse engineer your goals. That's one of the easiest things that you can do, is say, well, I know that if I talk to 10 families, I help 3. I know if I talk to 10 families, I help 5. I help 1. Like, how can we reverse engineer? So like, the end goal in mind, whatever that is for the end of the year, whether that be how many agents you want to recruit and you know how many you recruit on a weekly basis and how many interviews you have to go through to get that many recruits, or how many people you have to talk to get your family there, or to protect a family. How can we reverse engineer those goals? And, again, if I help 5 families, out of every 10, I do a presentation with, and my goal is to help, 500 families in 2023, then I have to do 1,000 presentations if I help half of the people that I sit with. Everybody's numbers are completely different when it comes to closing. But the one thing that I know for sure is that you can set an activity-based goal. Anybody, whether you're new or you've been here for a long time, you can commit to an activity. You can make a commitment to an activity no matter what. And guess what? If you commit to an activity no matter what, and when I say no matter what, I mean no matter what, the results will come. And the results will get better each time, every month, because the compound effect of your skills starts to set in. But it's only the person who commits to the activity no matter what. Because I know plenty of people who say they commit to the activity no matter what, but what they really meant is I'll commit to the activity for a week if it's not too hard. I'll commit to the activity for a month if I can survive. But when you commit to the activity no matter what, and you do the things, the results are going to come. And then, for some of you who want to go out there, your activity goals for somebody who's full-time in this business, I think this is an easy way to say it. The activity goals for somebody who wants to be full-time in this business really easily should be, again, 30 appointments for a week if you're sitting in the home. And of those 30 appointments, you should sit with 20 and you should help 5 to 10. So if you're going to do in-home business this year, 30 appointments a week. That's a really easy activity goal. And now you got to reverse engineer for your numbers. Well, how many leads do you usually have to buy to set 10 appointments? Okay, well, maybe I need to add 50% to that lead purchase so that I can get to 15 appointments for the next 2 days, then I'll be at 30. And if I set 30, I'll sit with 20 and I'll help 5 to 10. And if you're doing telesales, and this is not, something that, I didn't make this up. The top telesales teams that are crushing it, that have 99% of their producers doing telesales, are saying either 1,000 dials or 10 presentations a day. 1,000 dials or 10 presentations a day. Now, it's up to you how serious you want to take the definition of what a presentation is for you. But guess what? The more serious you define presentation, obviously, the better your results are going to be. If you say, oh, that wasn't a presentation, I still got 9 more. What is it for you? Is it just they answer the phone and they didn't hang up in the first 3 sentences, or you got them to go grab a pen, or you got all the way through pitching the options? Like, what's that for you? So the top telesales teams say 1,000 dials in a day or 10 presentations in a day, because they know the compound effect of doing 1,000 dials in a day or 10 presentations. You cannot fail if you don't quit. It's almost impossible, unless every time somebody answers, you just hang up the phone and you're not trying. It's almost impossible to not get better if you're willing to commit to that kind of activity. So if you're in the home, 30 appointments in a week. And if you're doing telesales, 1,000 dials or 10 presentations in a day. And I don't know, again, how you could do 1,000 dials and 10 presentations a day for 30 days and not get better. Simple, but will you dial the phone enough times to book and present to that many appointments? And do you commit to pushing through the hard calls, the angry clients, and the fatigue of sitting in a chair all day long dialing the phone? That was one of the hardest things for me in the last 2 years, is I just hate sitting in a chair. I don't really like working from home. I worked from home for like a decade and I got kind of sick of it. And that's why I loved going out in the homes and meeting people, because it gave me a little bit of a change of pace. Switched to doing telesales the last 3-4 months. And it's been really difficult for me to discipline myself to actually sit in the chair and not get up, to not get distracted, to not, hear my son crying downstairs and go, oh, maybe I need to change a diaper, or maybe I can do the dishes or make my wife lunch. Oh, now I'm doing the laundry and mowing the lawn, and there goes my whole dial day. So for me, the discipline to sit in that chair and do what I have to do, will you, make the decision, making the decision to put the numbers in your favor. It's, it's simple, but it's not as simple as, oh, I'll just give it a try. I'll just give it a shot. It's deciding that you're going to put the numbers in your favor no matter what. And, the question I always want to know is, like, what's the difference between somebody who helps 100 families in a year, 250 families in a year, 400 families in a year, 1,000 families in a year? Like, are they really that much better than everybody else? Or did they just make the decision that they were going to do it no matter what and put the numbers in their favor. That's it, period. It's simple stuff. This isn't rocket science. Putting the numbers in your favor will skyrocket the speed at which you improve your skills. Somebody who helps 500 families in a year, they talked to more families than you, period. They weren't that much better. They didn't do 600 appointments and help 500. They probably did 1,500 appointments, 1,600, 2,000 appointments to help 500, where, you did 200 to help 100. If you look at your numbers were actually better than them, but they beat you because they were willing to talk to 1,500 to 2,000 families in the year, and you weren't. So what would you be willing to do? So you could put the numbers in your favor and you can skyrocket your skill set if you'll commit to developing this skill. That's what we're learning how to do. So, what does it really look like to make the decision in 2023 from, a production perspective? It's as simple as, committing to wake up early and following a daily schedule if you're full time. Somebody who wakes up at 5 a.m. has an exponential number of hours per year on somebody who wakes up at 8 a.m. This is kind of a crazy statistic. It was really shocking to me, actually. So somebody who wakes up at 5 a.m. versus somebody who wakes up at 8 a.m. The person who wakes up at 5 a.m. has 27 more 40-hour work weeks than you. That's insane. Just by waking up at 5 a.m. versus working up at 8 a.m., if it's me versus you, and you're way better than me at this, if you give me 27 40-hour work weeks on you, I will beat you. I will. I got extra 3 hours a day, 27 40-hour work weeks. That's how much you can gain back by going from 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. It's pretty staggering when you actually look at those numbers. What is the routine that you're willing to commit to? I think that when things started to really work for me, I decided to treat myself like a W-2 employee instead of the independent contractor that I am. So all of us in this business, we're 1099, we're independent contractors. We joined this business because we want to be our own boss. I hate to break it to you guys, but we all suck at being our own boss. I myself, the worst. I am the worst boss of myself in the entire world. And I'm sure some of you guys are shaking your head going, yeah, me too. I'm a horrible boss of myself. Well, at the end of the day, I wanted to treat myself like a W-2 employee and set a schedule that I could stick to, whether I felt like it or not. Because if you're W-2, you don't have a choice. If you don't show up, you're fired. But here, if we don't show up, we'll just watch Netflix instead. Here, if we don't show up, we'll just sleep in instead. And it's and we won't feel any pain until 2-3 months down the road. There won't be any immediate pain. It's I'm my own boss, so I can chill and do what I want today. But then we feel the pain 2-3 months down the road when we lose all of our freedom of choices because people who are broke have no choices. Okay. That's what it really is at the end of the day. So it's committing to starting your dial day every day at 7:30. Top producers, they don't mess around when it's time to work. Guys, it's committing to dial until you have your activity, regardless of how late you're dialing. I can't tell you how many people I've been on live dials with at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, midnight. Some people are at 2 a.m. dialing in Hawaii because they haven't hit their goals yet, because that's what this means to them. It's showing up to every single appointment, regardless of if you feel like it or if you don't feel like. I can't tell you how many appointments I went to that I didn't feel like going to, and those were my biggest premiums of the week, the ones I didn't feel like going to. I think the last thing I really want to talk about before we go here, guys, is just the focus on why you're truly doing this. Because I can sit here and preach all day about work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. But it's if you don't know why you're truly doing this, you're not going to make it in this business. Ask yourself if going all in for a year and learning this skill set would be worth it. If you could, if it could help you achieve everything you're hoping to achieve, by joining this business. I've seen so many agents take control of their life by going all in on themselves, all in on this business. Me personally, this business, it gave me my confidence back after losing everything that I had, multiple times, guys. I came into this business in close to $50,000 in debt. A couple of years previously, I had all my stuff repossessed in front of my friends and family and taken away from me. So like I understand what the embarrassment of financial ruin feels like. I was basically living off of my wife, who was working full time as a teacher to support us and pay off my debt, because she came into the relationship with no debt. She's paying off my debt. And I didn't even know if I could do this. But all that I did know is I knew that I wanted our situation to be different. I knew that I wanted to be the provider for our family. And guys, this grind, it isn't easy. The late nights, they're not easy. Making the decision to focus on serving families, over going to family parties and having to make the hard decisions, it's not easy. But I think I just realized that, what if making the hard decisions made it so you had all the choices you wanted next year? That's like the number one thing that I've gained since starting to find some success in this business is choice. The people who don't have choices are people who are struggling financially. You don't get to choose where you want to live. You don't get to choose what you want to eat for dinner for real. You don't get to decide where your kids go to school or decide if you're going to miss your kid's game. You have no choices when you're broke. Said it once, I'll say it 100 times. You have no choices when you're broke. And guys, if you work hard at this and you learn the skills that can be learned, but I think the thing I have to highlight before we go is you have to earn that right. You have to earn the right to have freedom in this business, because the skills are not just learned, they're earned. Like they're earned with the blood, the sweat, the tears, the repetition, the doing it over and over and over again. The skills aren't just learned, but they're earned. And we want to earn the right, to live this laptop lifestyle where I can work wherever I want to work. We want to earn the right to be able to set our own schedule. And until this point, where you've earned it, you have to learn to treat yourself like an employee, and you're about to fire yourself every single day if you don't learn this and start getting the results. The problem is most of us aren't disciplined enough to be our own bosses. So we have to set ourselves up to win by creating rules for ourselves, rules that make the game easy to win. Life's a game. I make the rules. So I make the rules and the structure and the parameters in a way that helps me win. So I set the structures and the parameters around how I'm going to build this business until it becomes a part of me. And it becomes a part of us and a part of who we are and what we do. And when it becomes a part of us, that's when the results are consistently flowing, when you're obsessed with this business and doing it consistently. When we've proven that we can be a good steward of the money that comes in and we can pour it back into our business and still pay our bills and still invest into the growth of our agency, then we've proven that we've earned the right to be our own boss. And at this point, we've earned the right to choose what we want to do with our lives. And I think that's what's possible here with Family First Life, guys. So not to preach too much, but my last piece of advice would be to get with your manager or whoever brought you into this business and get really serious about your plan for 2023. Obviously, anybody, you're welcome to reach out to me as well. Do my best to get back with everybody. But let's figure out what's holding you back from your goals. Let's figure out how to help remove that obstacle from your path. Having a strategy session with your manager to make 2023 a great year. Like, what does that look like? Well, what did 2022 look like for you? If you look back, did you do a good job of tracking your data? Because if you track your data, we can go and we can look back at your data and find out exactly what went wrong in 2022 and change it by just changing a little input. That input might be leads or it might be number of appointments, whatever it is, and that will dramatically change the output. But you have to commit to being willing to reflect and open yourself up for criticism, to open yourself up for suggestion, for somebody to help you create a plan for 2023. So whether you are a manager or not, like I would even encourage you to get with your manager. Like you could be a manager managing a huge team. You've got a manager who's managing a bigger team. Get with them, create a plan, create a strategy. If you're a new agent, call me, call your manager, call whoever invited you onto this call and set up some time before January 1st. So you're not coming in January 7th trying to come up with a plan for a year that's already started. Don't wait till January 1st. We can start right now in this very moment. I believe in every single person on this call, and the reason I believe in you is because somebody else, they believed in me when I was first starting in this business and it helped me get through the hard parts. So, I'll kind of end with this quote. This has been something that has been really powerful for me over the years. The greatest reward is on the other end of the highest hill. Okay. The greatest reward is on the other end of the highest hill. And this might be the highest hill that you've ever climbed, but who you are when you get to the top and the view will be absolutely worth it. So, guys, reach out if you need anything. Let's go out and crush the rest of this year and plan for a huge 2023. I hope everybody has an amazing night. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out, everybody.